All right, y'all, what's going on? It's Combo Breaker 99. I'm back with another video. All right, y'all. So, yeah, this fight's already been announced. Y'all been hearing about it earlier this week. But I just wanted to kind of wait around. I wanted to see if it was true and to see if it would ever become official because we know where this usually goes with boxing, man, and especially with Mike Coppinger whenever he puts these announcements up. Look, we all learned from the Crawford Spence announcement, right? Everybody thought that fight was taking place November 19th. Everybody thought that date was secured, but what happened, right? And once again, this piece of news here, I saw on Twitter, and it was retweeted, and everybody was putting it per Mike Coppinger. And yeah, he put it up again. He said that Errol Spence Jr. versus Keith Thurman was in the works for April, but it was taking place at 154, right? And yeah, I just wanted to wait a few days and see what was going to play out. You know, I didn't want to make a bunch of fake news or act like I know that the fight is official or anything like that. But some people asked me about it, wanted to know my thoughts. So I said, all right, I'll give my thoughts on it because it seems like the fight is in the works. You know, it's also been said that Errol's gone on record to say that it seems like Thurman is more in the mindset of wanting to fight him than Terrence Crawford is, right? So, yeah, my thoughts on this fight, really, there was just a couple of questions that, popped up in my mind. It's like, is it too late for this fight? And why 154? And does it really intrigue the boxing fans at this point as a whole? Does it really intrigue y'all? Does it get y'all hyped up? Like, is it a good fight leading up to the Terrence Crawford fight? Because we know that Errol's probably going to have to take a fight in between, just like Terrence Crawford did against David Avanesian. But those are the three main questions I have about this fight. But first off, is it too late? I mean, look, nowadays I'm kind of used to this with boxing. I really am, because boxing, they don't give you the fights on time like they should now. You know what I mean? Like, they don't give you the prime for prime fights like that. And I mean, it's kind of been going around like that for a while now, since, boxers can make more money. They can let fights marinate, and everybody wants to blame Mayweather Pacquiao. But really, Mayweather Pacquiao, that was just kind of like it was kind of like a cherry on top of both of their careers, because really they didn't need each other, in my opinion. And then, that might be another video I have to do. But to me, I think Terrence and Errol, they need each other more than Manny and Floyd ever did, right? But I think that a lot of these fighters nowadays, they just kind of took that blueprint and said that, let's marinate and try to get as much money as we can, as much money as possible as we can out of this thing, and that's kind of what messed it up for a lot of these fights that, just passed us by. Everything from, Wilder Joshua, that fight could have taken place like 4 or 5 years ago. Spence Crawford 4 or 5 years ago. Same with Thurman and Spence. Thurman and Spence. And just so many other fights too. Even like with Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney, that was like a fight that, we wanted like a couple years ago. Well, it could still happen, but I kind of think they're going to do the same thing. They are. Possibly, Tank and Haney, the same thing could play out with them. Ryan Garcia and Tank, they're kind of doing the same thing now. They continue to like marinate this thing out whenever they really do need each other right now, right? And the same thing goes with Thurman and Spence. Like, it is too late. It is in a way too late, because the fight made more sense when it was prime Thurman, when he had 2 belts, and Errol Spence had 1 belt, and he kept calling Thurman out. Because that time they had a nice storyline. Everybody thought Thurman was ducking Spence, and Spence was really giving him that energy, right? It gave us a great storyline at the time. He went overseas to get his belt from Kell Brook. Keith Thurman was over here unifying with Sean Porter, and he took Sean Porter's belt and he unified with Danny Garcia, right? He took those belts. Thurman was claiming to be the baddest welterweight on the planet, and Spence was on his behind. He kept blowing that smoke up his, and he just kept getting at him, and that was the fight we wanted, right? So at that time, it made a lot of sense, and it was at a weight, and it was for belts, and it was for really welterweight supremacy. Like, this was really before even Terrence Crawford was making his name in 147. This was the fight everybody wanted. So at that time, it had a lot of fire. I wanted this fight then, and there was so much going on with it. But then Thurman loses luster. He doesn't want to fight Spence because what does he say? I want to marinate this fight. I want to let it play out a little bit longer. He's trying to pull the Mayweather-Floyd thing. I mean, the Mayweather-Pacquiao thing, So he makes it wait out till he gets injured and loses his belts. He gets beat by Pacquiao. He's gone for like 2 years, whatever, right? So he messes the whole thing up. So, yeah, in a way, this fight is too late because all of that stock that Thurman had back then is pretty much gone. I mean, Thurman still has some skills, and he still has some hunger to him, and he still has a bit of a name, and he has a nice resume, but everything that was going for him back like 5 years ago and 4 years ago is already gone now. So it doesn't have the same fire to it. So it is a bit too late. It is a bit too late in that fashion. Like all those points I gave, that's how I feel about it. Me as a hardcore fan that wanted this before, I don't really have the fire for this now. Like I don't have the hypeness for it. Like it kind of interests me, but it just doesn't like get me fired up like that. And on top of that, at 154, like this is even worse to me. Like, should it be at 154? Does it make a difference? Yeah, it does make a difference because these two guys made their names at 147. Yeah, they probably fought at 154 early in their career, on and off here and there, but it wasn't for welterweight supremacy like they all claim to be the best welterweights. They want to be the best welterweights. Well, let's pick up where we left off. Like 154 just kind of makes it seem a little lazy to me. That's just me, like as a fan, like that's my opinion. Like maybe it's because they're having trouble making weight, and they, I understand Spence has been doing it longer. He's been much more on it. I mean, he's had his down times, but he is a big fighter. But at the same time, it's just like, why for this one fight can't it be down to 147 whenever he hasn't really fought too many times? It's going to be a year since his last fight since Ugas, right? So he could kind of, make sure he's walking around at that weight, close to that weight, right? But eventually, he'll want to move up. But for this one last fight or two, counting the Crawford fight, I think he should be able to, make this thing at 147. Same thing goes for Thurman, right? Like Thurman, he's had a long break, to just kind of live the lifestyle of still a fit fighter, right? Like Hopkins, he lives that lifestyle where all the way up until he retired, he was eating clean. He was always walking around close to his weight, you know what I mean? So he didn't have too much to drop. So it's possible, it is possible. So this being at 154 just kind of makes it a little lazy to me, where it seems like they just want to get in a fight and say, okay, let's go ahead and make this happen. Let's not put any more risk on the Crawford fight. Like in case Spence does lose, he still has his undisputed title. But to us, an L is an L. Right? If Spence did wind up losing, an L is still an L, and it would take away the fire from the Crawford fight if he lost. So to me, I think it should just be 147 all the way around. That way it could be another title defense for Thurman. For Spence, it's another title defense for Spence for his, his undisputed or three belt crown. Defending against Keith Thurman, that would still be a big name, because that would still be his get back. He was able to get back and punish Thurman for making him wait for so long. And the name still holds more weight than anybody Crawford's fought in his last 2 or 3 fights, right? Just being honest, right? Like, it's a better name than Abanesian. And if he gets him at 147, like, you can say, hey, look, I beat the best welterweights. Nobody can say, oh, you beat a blown-up Keith Thurman who was slow. And speaking of slow, that could be another possibility there for Keith Thurman. Like, yeah, Keith has had a lot of time off, and he's getting older and getting heavier, but is that because he's just inactive, right? Like, who's saying that this weight could be better for him, right? Like, the power could carry up, but Thurman's boxing style is more of a mover, right? He's a mover and in and out type of guy, and he sets up punches with speed. He's kind of a speed oriented fighter. So 154 could just make him slower and easier to hit, right? He might have power, but his style is not like Spence. Like junior middleweight favors Errol Spence more because Errol Spence is more of a physical fighter, right? You can see it in his body. He's even in his style, like he's a muscular fighter. He's got those muscles. So it kills him to make 147 now that he's getting older. So imagine whenever he just cuts down to 154, he'll be a hell of a lot stronger, right? So his style being more physical and like the break him down guy who comes in and dogs you and, beats your arm, beats you to the head, kind of a beat him up guy. That power, that weight's going to add to his power. It's going to add to his strength, and it's going to add to his gas tank, because no rough weight cut is going to give him more endurance and more stamina to push through 12 rounds, and be able to walk Thurman down for however long. So you have to look at that too, like which style is going to suffer from the weight and which style is going to benefit. And to me, the physical type of fighter, the brawl guy, the boxer, the pressure boxer like Spence, he'll favor, his style will benefit more from a move up in weight, whereas Thurman, who hasn't really been boxing too much lately and who's been inactive and is more so using his legs, he's going to be the slower guy here, and he could get, easily picked apart. So 154 is not looking too good here. So again, 154 doesn't really do much for me because, again, it's not going to be the Thurman that we want, the welterweight Thurman, and it's not even going to pick up where we really left off. It's just kind of like a really, really a stay busy fight, almost like on Avanesian level, because then it's like, it's just, oh, okay, they don't care, it's not them at their best. Like Spence and Thurman are welterweight. They're best when they're at the welterweight, right? So that's another thing that just kind of takes away from it. And I don't think really the boxing fans are really crazy about this one now because so many years have went by. And, not just speaking for me, but like I think as a whole, like the boxing fans, they don't really even want to see this as a pay-per-view event because there's nothing on the line here really except Spence's undefeated record. The 3 belts aren't on the line. The WBA already kind of set up a thing for him where he could take this fight in between and not be stripped so he could move on and finish his negotiations with Crawford. But I think one of their stipulations is that he has to make sure that Crawford fight is going to be taking place this year, something like that, right? It has to be taking place after this Thurman fight. So, yeah, all in all, man, I just think that the fight could have had more fire before, and it should be at 147. Like, if it happens at 147, I'll give more credit, and I'll probably will be a little bit more hype. I'm still going to watch it because I would like to see what could have been, but really it needs to be at welterweight just to give Spence a little bit more of one more big name on his resume at welterweight, just to prove that he has been doing the heavy lifting, which I always felt he has. He's earned his 3 belts against some tough competition. And, beating somebody like Thurman at 147, getting him out of the way, will go ahead and kind of close that book and then focus on the chapter in his legacy now that we really need to finish up now. Because, like I said, Spence and Crawford do need each other more, more than they think they do. I mean, if they want legacy, I mean, money-wise, no. Like, they could probably retire now. But if they want to be known as the greatest fighters, they need to fight each other, right? Because this marination crap ain't really going to get it anymore. It's really not for the hardcore fans. And I might jump on here and do a live with y'all if y'all watch this video, and we can actually kind of go into this more because really, like I said, the Floyd Mayweather-Manny Pacquiao weighed out, that was just kind of a curse on boxing, because those two fighters, they gave fighters a good hope and understanding that they could know their worth and make more money. But at the same time, now everybody's trying to wait out the best fights and they're aging out their best fights. Well, by waiting out, they unintentionally sometimes age out their opponents, and then that luster's gone or, the fight never happens, right? So, yeah, man, me, all in all, like I said, I'll watch this fight. I hope they, fingers crossed, I hope they move this thing down to 147 because that's where this thing really needs to be. I mean, to see Thurman at his best, because I think Spence will be solid at 154, but to make it a competitive fight and not a one-sided fight where everybody will make excuses and say, oh, Spence beat a blown-up, slow Thurman because he's bigger anyway. And, in order not to hear that, I think it should just be on level playing ground. Both guys pick up where y'all left off before, 147. Let me know what y'all think, guys. Combo Breaker 99, I'm out. Subscribe. Peace.